Now, today we're going to talk about the concept of God, if it's real, if it's not. Let's watch this video and get our thoughts in.
So, like you, I was raised in church. I took my beliefs very seriously. I wanted to live the way that God would have me live. I ended up going to Christian theology school because I wanted to get closer to God and I wanted to understand the Bible more. And what happened in theology school is that I lost my faith, and I didn't choose to, and I didn't want to. I had no desire to. It would really mess up my life. I was married to someone who was a believer. I was raising children as a believer. I was a seminary teacher, so my job was dependent on me believing. I really did not want to lose my faith. But what happened is I got this little seed of doubt where I got so good in theology school being able to tell what kind of God a society will create, that I had this thought that I'd never had before that said, what if we're the ones creating God rather than God creating us? Because what
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
if you give me a society, don't tell me what it is, but tell me how the agriculture works, how the flooding works, how the social structure works, and I'll tell you what kind of God they would have created. And every time I'm right. And then you can even get to the individual level. Tell me your core values, tell me about your personality, and I'll tell you what kind of God you believe in or what kind of God your brain would have created, because we all have different conceptions of God. And I got so good at being able to guess, even in the Bible, something will change in the society, and then all of a sudden the theology changes or the God changes, that I just began to see this as a human project. And for the first time in my life, when I was in theology school, I did something really scary. It took a lot of bravery. But I figured that if God was real and if the truth was truth, that it would be able to handle my little human questions.
Now, I think that's a very cool, fresh take on the whole God and religious situation. All right. Now, for me, I'm someone that has slowly lost some faith in the religious doctrine. I grew up in a very religious family. Dad's a pastor. Have been a Church of Christ believer my entire life. So I've been there. I know the ways. All right. But I always had this question that this lady even talked about in this video, right? It's like, why am I trying to be a good person to get a reward at the end? Why am I trying to be a good person just to go to heaven? Why can't I just be a good person because I want to be a good person? That was like my motivation. And her is actually more pronounced because she went to school to study this shit because she cared about it that much and came out in a way that actually drove her away from God, from religion. I'm one of those people who believe that if anything is worth believing in, it should become more part of your life the more educated you get about it. I don't think you lose your belief by getting more educated. Then that just means the thing that you got but that you believed in wasn't anything substantial. So the fact that being more educated and being curious can take you away from the quote unquote religious God and the religious doctrine is something that I really look down upon. It really shouldn't make sense because God is there to enlighten us, right? The Bible and all these things, they're there to enlighten us. It's a whole book for a reason, right? You need education to go and read it. There shouldn't be a meter to the education that you get to where you start like disbelieving the stuff. That just means it was man-made. And to add to her point about this being a man-made thing, right? This being us creating God instead of God creating us, it makes sense because religion really completes the parts of human nature that are uncertain. Religion make us one. It brings us together under some shared ideology. It makes us want to be good people. It makes the people that require a reward to be a good person always have some sort of phantom reward, which is going to heaven. And yes, I guess that is the good. And it also takes away humans' biggest fear, which is dying and not existing. It gives you that sense of the afterlife. And if you see a lot of people around you believing in this afterlife thing, it sort of takes away that pressure and that fear of death. You die happier as a religious person. But I will say you live more constricted, more constrained as a religious person, which is good and bad. So those are some of the things that it does for us on a daily basis, but we shouldn't let religions blind us from trying to understand the things that we're curious about. And if getting more knowledge and becoming more intellectual on things that we want to be intellectual about takes our away from religion, is okay. This video isn't to say, hey, don't be religious. It's to say, hey, understand why you're religious. At least try to defend your point if somebody asks you. If you want to be religious, take your time to understand it before I want to dedicate my life to this thing called God and the Bible and Christianity. Let me understand it, do my research, and say for sure that it works. And I've done that, and I know that it doesn't work. And one of the most important things to add to this too is the concept of God still being there, even if you don't have this religious aspect. Now, God don't have to be a thing that kind of stops your desire to understand the uncertain. God can be something that you create to deal with the uncertainty. God is, in my opinion, actually, God is what the universe is. God is what we are in. The fact that we're here, the entire presence of life is God. The fact that we can think and have consciousness, I think that's God. And you can say it's broad, but if I can scope this down the best way possible, it would be God is our consciousness. The way we get these things called thoughts, I think that is given to us by God. The way nature works, the dynamic freaking measuring systems, bro. How gravity was made to be perfect for us, and all those things. How the planets work, all of those things. Whatever controls that is God. And it doesn't mean that studying that will make us not believe in that God. It will actually make us believe in that God more because we'll get more data to show how that God is working and how impressive that God is. So when I think of God in that way, I actually become closer with God through my curiosity. And that's the kind of God that I like and I would like to follow. A God that encourages curiosity and critical thinking. And that makes me want to become better and learn more and understand more about the situation of life that I find myself in. So, this God of consciousness, this God of the universe, is the God of infinite thought, infinite wisdom, infinite curiosity. I think leaning on this belief, this is not a person, this is not an idea even. This is right now. You can't change it. You can't say it doesn't exist. You can't say you have to believe in it. Right, it exists. The universe is right there. The seasons are going to change. Plants are going to grow. Your heart is going to beat. You're going to breathe. Whatever is making that happen, whatever is making your cells move, whatever is making signs, that is God. Whatever is giving you thoughts, whatever is giving you insights in the world, is making you curious, that is God. And you can use that and really create some of the most beautiful things in the world. The best art come from people just being free and listening to what the universe gives them. Listening to your universal mind, which I think is the voice of God, bro. Now, I don't want to make this too religious. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, though. Without further ado, love you, boys. Peace out. Bye bye.